Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your presence here, and welcome to Akasha and the Sun's ongoing Tree of Life classes. Another magnificent conclave it was at the Hotel Vancouver, was it not? And each one so unique, offering its own wonderful gifts. And of course, what makes it fully unique is the magnificent students like yourselves and those who travel from out of town and sometimes long distances to be with us at Conclave, and we are truly grateful. Indeed. Let's take a deep breath. And let us enter into meditation and invocation as we withdraw our attention from the outer world and turn our attention inwards in deep loving acceptance of the spiritual center within our hearts. A spark that is now a flame, the flame of life that beats our heart, that holds the magic presence of our higher self, our beloved I Am presence. And through that eternal flame of life that abides within our hearts, we greet our divinity, our essential self, the I Am that I am. Our beloved higher self, our mighty I Am presence. We are so grateful we have discovered you, the source of our life on earth, and our true self. And we dedicate these days of our lives to embodying the fullness of thy presence through the life that you have given each of us. And to this great attainment, we are so grateful for the ancient knowledge of the sacred rays and flames of God's source, that we can turn to you, our own beloved presence, and to some of the ascended host and the angelic host, to project the sacred fire in, through, and around us. And as we offer our love to you, our own great God presence, through you we extend our love to the three great masters of the resurrection flames, mighty Saint Germain and his violet purifying flames, beloved Jesus the Christ and his golden flames of illumination, and to Mother Akasha and her rose-pink flames of divine love, will, and grace. Great Masters, we call upon you and your angels to attend us, that with our presence blaze a pillar of the sacred fire, the resurrection flames, violet, pink, and gold, through the substance of our minds, bodies, and feelings. That sacred fire that releases the purity, the illumination, and the love of the sacred fire deep inside our minds, our bodies, our feeling side of life. We thank you. We call upon our own higher discerning intelligence to sustain and maintain the pillar of the sacred fire in, through, and around us every moment of every day. We thank you. Our beloved presence, we are so grateful, considering all the things that are of a discordant nature in this world. We are so grateful for the greater protection that you and the Masters offer into our lives, that requires only that each of us call to you and call that protection in each day. As we now call upon you, our beloved great God presence, and the ascended host, to enfold us now in your mighty magic tube of ascended Master's light substance, drawn down and around us and below us, seal us in a great cosmic shield of light that makes us invisible to the discord that is present in the outer world. We thank you. Deep breath. to the great Archangel Michael, who is visiting our earth plane once again. We call upon you, Archangel Michael, and your legions of angels to continue to sustain and maintain a wall of cosmic blue flames outside of our tube of light as added protection until we are resurrected in our service and ascension. We thank you. And our beloved presence, we greet those masters that are known to us as the great cosmic beings. Beings such as Lord Melchizedek, the Queen of Light, Mighty Victory, Lord Maitreya. And as they have taught us and offered to us, we call upon the great cosmic beings of light to enfold us, our lives, our homes, our loved ones, all the daily activity of our lives, our means of transportation, in their ascended master walls of invisibility, invincibility, invulnerability, over all that is of human creation, human law, and the sinister force. And as these ascended master veils are drawn around each of us, daily, they make each of us an untouchable force to all that is wrong in this world. And we are so grateful for this divine intervention in our lives. Deep breath. And now, our beloved presence, we turn our attention back to your spiritual centers that are now growing within our physical bodies. And we do understand that as we remain consciously aware of those spiritual centers and call forth their expansion, our bodies begin the great process of throwing off aging, disintegration, and disease. And by the expansion of these spiritual centers within our bodies, do our physical garments become temples of our true divine self, the I Am Presence. And so we turn our attention back into our physical hearts. We acknowledge the great life flame that is surrounded by the lantern of light, the gift of Jesus the Christ. We acknowledge the 9 plumes of creation that surround our heart flame. And we call upon our heart flame to expand and rise and release its sacred fire, love, purity, and power throughout the substance of our minds, bodies, and feelings, producing the great transformation so that our outer selves become more sensitive and recipient of the greater love and the greater life and light of our divinity. We acknowledge a golden sun's presence within the chest cavity, our second spiritual center. And within that sun's presence, a pink heart, and 3 flames rising up 3 to 4 inches high. Pink, gold, and blue. Pink to the left, gold in the center, blue to the right. The threefold flames of love, wisdom, and power. And we acknowledge that these spiritual centers project endless light, perfection, and love. And so we call upon our beloved presence to expand and expand and expand our golden sun's presence within, in all its love, wisdom, and power. Expand it out from us in all directions, 1,000 feet, 1,000 yards, 1,000 miles, and more. A blessing, a miracle blessing to all its radiance flows through, passes through. We thank you. And finally, we turn our attention into the brain structure, the frontal lobes, where we acknowledge in the brow of our brain structure the 7 seeds of creation, the 7-fold flames of the 7 mighty Elohim, that by divine intervention have been activated and opened. And we call upon those 7 flames of creation within our brow to expand and release their electronic currents of perfection throughout our brain structure, releasing light and life and power to every region of our brain structure, so that our incoming higher consciousness can use all activities of our brain. And finally, we call upon the 3 great blending of these 3 spiritual centers. We call upon our heart flame to expand and blend with the 3-fold flame and its golden sun's presence in our chest cavity, and to expand and rise up and become one with the 7-fold flame within the brain structure, in the brow, as one mighty eternal flame of life that releases its qualities, its powers through our physical embodiment, raising the life, the light, and the love, and the perfection of our presence through our earthly embodiment, increasing more and more each day. And we are so grateful to have received in the Ascended Master teachings the knowledge of the rays, of the rainbow rays, and the sacred fire, and how each of these are now beginning to grow within each of us, opening the way for our greater freedom in our outer selves. We thank you. Deep breath. And now, precious hearts, into our gathering today, and into the homes of all around the world who consciously turn towards the light, we call upon the presence of angels. We love the angels. We accept the great reality of angels, and we welcome them into our presence. We command our own minds, bodies, and feeling side of life become open and receptive to the great outpouring of the angels' miracle presence in our lives. We remind ourselves that part of the dispensation of angels, when we invite them into our life, is to assist each of us to fulfill our higher purpose and the divine plan our presence has for each of us, our destiny. And we embrace the angels, and we call upon them to enfold us in their miracle love, their miracle energy that brings forth such fulfillment. We thank them for their great service. Deep breath. And now, moments before Mother Akasha greets us, she invites each of us to hold a higher vision for friends, family, and loved ones. She asks that we bring into our minds the names or images of 4 to 5 people in your life. They can be friends, family, or loved ones. You choose. However, she asks that you hold these loved ones, their names or images in your mind for the next few moments, as together we and students around the world, we are calling forth continuously unfolding, miracle-making moments into the lives of these precious ones that we are holding within our consciousness now. Bring their names and images into your mind. Together, we are calling forth from their own divinity, by the intervention of angels and the ascended beings upon their lives. Together, we are calling forth and we are welcoming continuously unfolding, miracle-making moments into the lives of our loved ones. We are so grateful to have this opportunity to hold a higher vision for our loved ones as we do this in the silence for a few moments. And may the blessings of love's eternal presence be upon each of you. Akasha is with you. Please return your attention to the outer room. And as I welcome your presence here, my goodness, I must take a moment and honor and acknowledge another magnificent conclave. What makes each conclave indeed so magnificent is not only the gifts, the teachings that come forth from the ascended host, being lovingly held by the angelic host over 3 days, the stories that are shared by the ascended ones. Yet for me, what makes these conclaves ultimately so magnificent, in which I know that great success from those weekends that occur 4 times a year is the receptivity of the students, how receptive the students are, how receptive the students are in terms of being open, whether the information that is being shared, whether it is passing deep beyond the regions of the intellect, whether that information is passing into deep regions of the mind, whether it is touching the heart, and whether all that is being shared is finding its way into the feeling body. And as each of you discovered many, many years ago in your great awakening, how important it is for all things good, all things constructive, all that is of the light, all that is of love, and all that is of the greater life. Today, you know how important it is for all those various activities to get into your emotional body, to get into your feeling body. A sun has drilled it into your minds. You know it so well. What I feel, I make real. And in past times, during your own moments of personal empowerment, you have known that when there has been conflict between your mind and conflict between your emotional body, you know that in the early days of your awakening, that whatever was going on in your emotional body would win that conflict of the day. And so you know how important, if you do understand the power of the beautiful mind, what I conceive, I can achieve. That's where we show up and be the architect of our life. But we must have the fuel. And the fuel has always been the love that is intended to be in the feeling body, that supports and fulfills all that the light constructs in the mind. And so these are the things that I gauge when I look at a conclave. And the days afterwards, as I watch students prepare to travel again and return to their homes and see how much of what was shared at conclave, and not only the sharing of what comes from the stage, yet the sharing of students, the camaraderie, the joy of students coming together as sisters and brothers of the light. How all of that is being, I suppose you could say in your language, how that is being processed inwardly. And if that processing reaches deep inside your feeling side of life, because I think you're all at a place in your studies, your place of life, your awakening, your resurrection, that you're far past the days of going off to a wonderful weekend, a wonderful workshop, being inspired for a few days, then back to your outer life, and it's the same old, same old. And then disappointment sets in. And I hope that by my discourse at conclave, and by what I'm going to continue to share, that this will be very helpful in your days forward, as you come to understand that there is a very silent, I call it the silent ascension force, that begins upon everyone's life when one's life begins the Great Awakening. And we approach this with the realization there is no right or wrong when it comes to the moment. Everyone awakens in their own God-given time. No one must be pressured to awaken. You all have family members that feel you are quite odd yet. And we do not seek to proselyte. We honor all spiritual groups. There is no exclusivity. There is no specialness, unless the specialness you appoint yourself is given to everyone. And so, beloved hearts, there was two things that sought deep integration this conclave, while other stories and discourses were being offered. And it is my hope that come February, each of you will come to realize, not only as an idea, as Son says the words are appropriate, so in common language, I will say to you, these two ideas that were presented at conclave, they are a game changer. Life changer. It's for me, it's rather crude, but the point gets across. And the first thing is that process that is never timely to introduce to a student of life until the student has made progress through the process. And that was the the diamond configuration, the 4-point configuration of a 3-step process that is a silent ascending process. With the understanding, to ascend, let's take the lofty spiritual pieces out of ascension, and let's simply view it as a process of elevating and expanding, both in consciousness and all that uses our consciousness, our mind, our feelings, and what expresses our consciousness, our physical bodies. And so what I revealed is this silent ascension force. And it started the day you became interested in things of a spiritual nature. And it is not for me to say what initiated that. You all know, as you look past in your lives, you know those moments. And I described it as conclave, as the 4 points. It's the diamond points of a 3-step program. And those 4 points are 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. 3 steps forward, only 1 step back. And finally, 3 steps forward, never step back. This is a very silent, elevating, expanding ascension process that is touching your lives from the moment your great awakening begins. Now, indeed, as we open the new year, I will even launch more deeply into this. But for now, let us understand that these are 4 phases. The idea is that once you reach the 4th phase, there's no going back. But that isn't just about a choice. In other words, it's not a choice anymore. We can make choices and we can still go back. Oh, I fell again. I made a mistake. It's about the experience of the choices. It's that you're so far along that the choice is surrounded by experience. And so when we awaken, we can discover many wonderful things. We read an inspiring and enriching book. We're touched by someone who becomes a mentor, a guru, a temporary spiritual teacher in our lives. We hear the good news. We hear things in common New Age language, such as that we have a higher self. And if one continues to inquire, one realizes that far beyond the New Age community are actual, real, valid spiritual truths that have always existed. They weren't invented in 2011 or 12 and 13. They've been here as long as the universe has been. However, in the forgettery that has touched so many of the people of Earth, those truths become unknown, and therefore not all, but the vast majority of those truths didn't become operational in the life experience. So we awaken. And it's our first year or 2 years of awakening. And now I must pause. For I must remember what we have shared with you before, that it is impossible. It is literally, it is physically, mentally, emotionally impossible to fully awaken in one embodiment. The hour is too late. And so we've tried to encourage you to realize that if you are sensitive to spirit, to light, to love, to soul, and inquiring of the universe and the mystery behind those words, I am that I am. If you are sensitive to these things and your heart calls out to them, then there must be a series of embodiments that you have lived, a series of incarnations that have softened you, that have melted away some of the coldness and hardness and fear that has entrenched human consciousness. There must be something in your past lives that have broken down the ice fields of superstitious religious beliefs. And that requires hard experience. And so I've often reminded you that perhaps even before the time of Christ, perhaps even for 3,000 years, you may have been going at this process of awakening yourself. And in the early stages, you would not have referred to it as awakening. You might have referred to it as lifetimes of sovereignty, of reclaiming back lost will and the power that you gave to things in the outer world. And so, as I speak about these steps, I must be mindful that some of these experiences that I can describe, you may have had them in another embodiment. Do you understand? Yet when you come back into embodiment, you will touch them all. And if you've touched them all intensively, you will touch them all just lightly to bring that awareness back into your day-to-day consciousness. So 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. You become awakened due to whatever circumstances in your life. You read a wonderful self-help book. You attend a workshop. Your field of resonance and intuition and sensitivity is tingling. You read about things, you hear things, and it elevates you for a while. And then it's back to Monday, regular life, outer life, out to work, family problems, situations, issues to be solved and resolved. You're the same person. Yet there's this glimmer of hope. You attended a workshop, you read a book, you saw something that inspired you. So there's this glimmer of hope. And as you go back to your regular life, you remember that glimmer of hope. So you go back and you look for another book or you do some research and you attend more events. You're moving through shifting fields of consciousness, and some of those shifting fields may have plateaus that you climb. And you advance a step, you gain more information, you study, you learn the merits and the art of meditation. You know the difference between prayer and finding your voice and the power of decree and command. If your studies continue, you move beyond anything offered, even by the New Age community, because what's growing inside you is a thirst that helps you to realize you must decipher the greatest coded words in the universe. You must decipher them with precision, understanding, comprehension, and experience that follows. If the experience doesn't follow, you have to go back. You must have precision in your approach to understanding and comprehending that leads to the experience. If you don't get the experience, you go back again. Require more precision-like understanding, more comprehension to lead to the experience. The experience side of life is changing. There are improvements, but not the full experience of everything you're discovering. The revelations of I am that I am. I am that I am. Can we capture it in a few notes? Can we abbreviate? Is your study so evolved that we can abbreviate the great declaration that has been held in cipher code, I am that I am. Certainly you can. I am is the name of God infinite. I am is the name of God individualized. That's my higher self. And finally, I am is the impersonal responding presence of God that is within every living thing, a flower, a crystal, an animal, that when you know who you are, and you know that the impersonal I am, that's the Buddha understanding, that is in every living thing, then you have the threefold communication. What is to follow? The experience of the individualized I am that is your true self, communing with the impersonal I am that appears as a rose and is ready to respond in full bloom and love and beauty and fragrance to you. Or the individualized I am that you are growing into, that can maintain a communication and decree with the infinite I am. God, God is all that is, Mother, Father, God. You have these understandings. In the beginning, it was 3 steps forward, and all you were discovering in 3 steps back into the fields with this glimmer of hope of all that you've discovered. But that glimmer keeps calling upon you, and you go back, look for more. And you study and you hear and you're captivated and you're thirsty and you begin to get filled with all this, let's just say, spirituality. You went 3 steps forward again. Now back to work, back to the field, back to families, back to issues. But now it's not 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's 3 steps forward, only 2 steps back. Because you're carrying more life, more spirit. You're carrying more of the energy of your higher self and the life that you're living. And you're having some successes in directing that to the life experiences. And in other cases, you're having failures. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And there's this progression of this timeline. You don't go fully 3 steps back. You only go back 2 steps. But that going back 2 steps can be painful because you're going back with everything you touched. Everything you touched of the good news, of the promise, of life, of joy, the people that you met, you're taking that back with you. It's not just an idea. It's got a hold of you. So when you go back into your world, you're taking that back with you. You're taking your enhanced spirituality, your expanded consciousness. You're taking that back with you, and that activity that you are carrying that's increased begins to give a treatment to your world. It treats the various activities of your lives, improving some of them. And shock to every one of your senses for a period of time, making it seem like some of your issues, some of your experiences, even some of your relationships are getting worse. They are getting worse because you are becoming more alive. And you're starting to see things, or your light, your very own life is making you see things that you weren't seeing before. And as you maintain this process of, okay, and then you ditch yourself for a while, then you get yourself back up and you keep plowing away at your spirituality and your growth, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And another thing that begins occurring as you go back into your life, you're carrying the sacred fire. You're carrying the breath of life. You're coming alive. And now there's another level. And it's deep. Where all that aliveness and that sacred fire and that light, it's reaching deep into recesses of your mind. It's reaching down into regions of the emotional body that have become frozen over, and areas that have not been processed, things that you're maybe holding in your emotional body that you don't even know because it's buried so low. And so that process of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, what you don't realize in the process is that when you step back, you're bringing back with you all your spiritual growth. You're bringing back a more illumined mind, a greater spiritual heart. The flames of God are beginning to grow in your physical body. And just when you think that everything should be perfect, a lot of what that is doing is bringing up stuff to the surface that has to be loved free. So that 3 step forwards, 3 step back is short. The 3 step forward, 2 steps back is not too long. But the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back can go on for 20 years. I brought it to your attention, beloved ones. Remember my qualifier. There is a time when every master knows the timeliness of when to share something with you. I shared this with you because you are coming to the end. You are in the last phase. If there were 4 quarters to this phase, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. If there were 4 quarters to it, you got 3 quarters behind you. You got 1 quarter of the way. And do keep in mind what I have said the last few years. More and more, as new people come in to the academy, as more and more students awaken, they come in. Within a year, they will benefit from all the hard work that you did over 20 years. That's the way it is. You are the way showers. And once you open that gate for yourself, there's a part of you that must stand and hold that gate for all those that are going to come in. And make sure that the 20 years of living, of progress, of evolving, that you pass that on to those that are new and coming through the gate. So that's where you are with this process. It's best I say it that way because I know that your mind likes to grab onto something. Well, where are we with that? So in this 3 steps forward, 2 steps, so again, it's 4 points. 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. 3 steps, then you move on to 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Then you move into phases, 3 steps forward, only 1 step back. You're not stepping back as far as you used to. You're not falling off. You're not having as many human moments. Do you understand? And when those things happen, you're applying your spirituality, right? And the last phase is 3 steps forward, no turning back. So if that third phase, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, if I was to give it a mechanical process and say there's 4 quarters to that, 3 quarters are done. Now, if you were a farmer, you might have a little bit more appreciation. Got 3 quarters done, only 1 quarter of a section left. That would make you feel good. But let it feel good. Because when you're in that phase, you have what you need to carry you through, the day, to deal with anything that tries to offend you. And the last few things your own life is asking you to learn. What is important to me? What is it that I'm missing? What is it that's pulling me back out again? And the most important thing, when you shift into the 3 steps forward, no steps back. It is such a personal experience, and I might as well say what it is, because you can look forward to it. And there's different ways of saying it. You don't get pulled out again. You never get pulled out again. But it's not about getting pulled out again. There's no one or anything out in the world that can pull you off your spiritual center. It's impossible. The world is yours. You have come to give to the world. You can actually say, when I first introduced this idea a couple years ago, for some of the students to begin to affirm this world has nothing for me. I tried it out 5 times and then I withdrew. When I saw the emails that this messenger was flooded with. What does Akasha mean? This world has nothing for me. What am I supposed to take my life? You see, if a student asks those kind of questions, am I to remove myself? Am I to commit suicide? This world is nothing for me? Then you know that if a student can say something, they're not ready. They have not heard everything. Do you understand? It's not about whether the world has anything for me. It's about whether I have something for the world. That's the other piece. The difference we all come to make. Life gives each of us life that we may add. This is the problem with the people of earth. That is the fallen state of grace. Every race is given to add to the universe. But on planet Earth, it is a taking. So when you really understand, this is where you sail into 3 steps forward, never turn back. You know, you can go out and enjoy the things of the world. You can go out and enjoy a wonderful film. You can go out into a theater that is filled with 1,000 people of mass consciousness because you wanted to go out and enjoy a film and nothing else touches you. You saw the film. You can go out for a wonderful dinner and restaurant and a fine glass of wine afterwards. Nothing touches you. It's like you and your friend realized later you weren't aware of a single person in that restaurant. Nothing touches you. And P.S., when you do move into that 3 steps forward, no steps back, no turning back, all your relationships become divine. And now I'm going to tell you all something that you may not like to hear. You cannot move into the 3 steps forward, no turning back, without having Lord Maitreya touch your life. Now at the conclave, he gave you an idea of what he does when you invite him into your life, or your principal teachers, which you have agreed is a son and I and other guests who we invite in, say to him, come now to the student. Because when he comes to the student, he's going to reorganize your life. He's going to use his powers, and he's going to say, this, and this person's got to go. They're no good for you. Stop being a soft heart. This person's going to take you down. You're either going to trust me or not. I can look into the future. This person's going to take you down. You want to wrestle for that for another 10 years? Or do you want to see the light? So before you get into that 3 steps forward, no turning back, there is a, what's a word for it? When everything is sorted out, there's almost a calibration. Does that work? There's a shuffling, yes, there's a calibration of everything. Because that, when you reach that plateau, all relationships are divine. Whether that's a relationship with the I Am Presence, with the creators, relationships with people that you work with just love you. They have nothing bad to say about you. Your families just accept you as being, they don't call you odd anymore, they call you extraordinary. And they're wise enough to leave it at that. Everything changes. And if it's ideal for you to have a significant other in your life, you will raise into that plateau with your significant other. If it's not significant for you to have a significant other, you will simply not have a significant other until that is timely for you to have a significant other. Those are personal choices you make. But every personal choice is at a level of such sublime divinity. Can you put those words together? Sublime divinity. Sublime divinity is something that is divine, and you can't water it down. You can't put shadows on it. It stays in a hierarchy of such divine divinity, sublime divinity. Forgive me, I'm turning those words around. It's an amazing place. It really is. But the key, and it is a big shift, precious hearts. It's the shift of 2015. And at Conclave, you heard of some other things that are going to support that shift, including the influence of the first and second golden age coming in and being a very positive influence upon your life. You're going to hear a lot more of that in our opening weekend in Calgary in January 2015. It is so important that I reveal to you all 33 sacred names of resurrection. Not only reveal, the great work is bringing you to a level of deep comprehension. Remember, with almost precision, there must be understanding that leads to comprehension that follows by the experience. That is the fruit of life. That's the reward. And so I have chosen the great city of Los Angeles with our visit to Los Angeles in February, where I will not only complete revealing the last 10 sacred words, initiations of resurrection, it is also the weekend we will enter into deep comprehension that of each of these 33 passages, so that that comprehension can come into an experience side of fulfillment. I say to you, precious hearts, nothing but joy is ahead of you. Is it I that determine when you shift from the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back to the 3 steps forward, never turn back? Do you think it's I that decide that? No. It's your own divine nature. It's your own higher discerning intelligence that is watching you every moment, that watches your experiences. Messenger number 2 has gone through grueling experiences. that you don't know, the temptations of the outer world as a young man, and how to deal with those things. And he's had to go through it so that he can exemplify in the most magnificent way in 2015, what is it like to come to a place where the world has nothing for you, but you have everything for the world. You know not, your messenger number 2 goes off to restaurants and places, lovely places with his big Shakespeare books and his Ascended Master journals, and he'll sit and read for 2-3 hours. And then the waitresses in the background, they're all watching him and giggling, and sometimes waiters too, as this handsome young man is in deep study and just nothing going on in the restaurant or out on the street even faces him. Not even aware of it. And so you will all go through your experiences that are personal to each of you. And you will know, am I being measured here? Is the world pulling me out? Am I being pulled out of my peace? For your future as untouchables, as Christ beings, your future is to be a blazing presence of light. That your body, your mind, your spiritual centers inside your body temple is just radiating light to everything and everyone. And do you know, precious hearts, I have seen things that a son has come home and shown me. And I've said to him, what are you going to do about that, son? I remarked, it was about 7 weeks ago in your time, a son came home and he said, and he usually brings up the screen in which we look in your lives, and he says, look at the student here. Look at this. This is up in 2016. He showed me something in 2016. I said, son, why did you show me that? He said, because you got to think about all the things we need to teach. In September 2016, there is an enlightened student walking through a beautiful park, and it's almost an autumn day. And there is a fellow that is walking 2 of his dogs. When the dog saw the student and looked at him, and he was about 300 feet away, but the dog sensed and looked up, the dogs leaped in such a motion that the grip of the dog owner and the leashes just broke his grip, and the dogs ran towards the student. And the dog owners is hollering out to them as if the dogs are going to attack the student. And the student just turns and faces the dogs with the arms and hands outstretched. Nothing but love pouring from the student. And the student went down on the student's knees. I must be careful not to reveal whether this is masculine or feminine. The student went down on the student's knees, and the dogs just jumped and leaping and licking the students and rolling over with the students. And so much, you see, the dogs recognized the light that this student was carrying. The dogs recognized the God presence and just went for the student, just to be in that student's presence. The point is, animals were recognizing the divine nature that this student was carrying in their countenance. The animals will recognize you even before the people will. Isn't that wonderful? And think about what you can do for that kingdom that has been so tortured by people on this earth. So we have a magnificent future in 2015. So much things to share, so much progress, and to watch the transformation in each of you. You're in the last quarter. There are various ways that you can talk. That doesn't affect me. That doesn't touch me. Somebody brings something to your attention. It might even involve another student. And what do you say? That's none of my business. What are you bringing that to me for? That's none of my business. If you're so concerned about that, take it to the light. Everything shifts. Everything changes. And your sense of knowing. We will not come out of 2015 without all of you comprehending so deeply what does it mean beyond the words, beyond the sentence. What does it mean to know what you desire and to know what you require? What does that mean beyond the obvious words that make up that sentence? And to know this is what's coming. The fulfillment of all that you desire and all that you require. And so, blessed hearts, I will leave you on that note. Make sure it's not from the intellect. What you think you desire. Get into your hearts. Your heart, your true inner self will reveal to you what you really desire. What you really require. The mind has still got a hook that's operated by the intellect. And you know what that hook is? Habit. When you realize, why do I do that every day? I'm just wasting my time. Well, don't take it personal, because the only reason you do it is habit. That's nothing but a habit. And if you're going to break up a habit, you're going to need the sacred fire. So, beloved hearts, I am so excited about the future for all of you. This is definitely the path that is so intrigued. There are only 2 platforms on this earth. There are many spiritual paths. And I can say to you, there are many who would just dream of having the mighty victory overlight them. There are only 2 that the mighty victory has made it clear to the spiritual hierarchy that he will support those students. And that is the students of the I Am activity and the students, regardless of what is going on with the St. Germain Foundation, the students of the I Am activity and the students of the Radiant Rose Academy. Mighty Victory made it very clear in the conferences that were held in the Grand Tetons in August. Made it very clear that I have decided not to waste my time with any other groups. You know, this great cosmic being, you see, I know him. And I have shaken my finger at him and I've said, Victory, you are only victorious because you'll only engage the things that you know you'll win. God bless you, precious hearts. May the light of life and the love of life prevail in each of you. I thank you for going the distance. God bless you. We love and bless you, Mother Akasha. We are so grateful for your love. Our great God presence, Mother Akasha, we call upon you to precipitate the electronic pattern of the student crystal cup before each of us now, and energetically so fill our crystal cups with all the energy of God's great protection in our lives, God's great health in our lives, and God's great opulence in our lives. Fill, fill, fill the student body crystal cup, overflowing for each one. We thank you.